great. All right, everybody. Good morning. My name is Wendy Fracchia. I am with the Morris Murdock Escorted team. I am the operations manager, and I'm so excited to have you with us today. This is and today we're thrilled to have Abby Bonnel with us. Abigail, which we've just been saying in England with her family. You were just saying that you were never allowed to be called anything but Abigail.
No, everybody in England, all my relatives, school friends, everybody calls me Abigail. But when I came to America, when I was offered a job here in radio in Denver, when I was just 25, they couldn't fit Abigail on the billboard in Denver, so they shortened it to Abby. And so in America, I'm known as Abby, and over in Britain, it's Abigail. So lovely to be here. Very much for having me here today.
Oh, I was going to say it's so proper, and so it is absolutely fitting with that lovely British accent to have the Abigail.
Oh, bless you, Wendy. Thank you.
No, we're again just excited to have Abby with us today because for a number of years you have been leading a tour one time a year, every year to England and to Scotland.
Well, it really wasn't my suggestion. It was Larry's, and I work in broadcasting. I always have. I work in news, and I'm a news anchor for iHeartMedia here in Salt Lake City. And Larry Gelwicks hosted through our radio station, our news talk station that I work for, a travel show every Saturday. So I would frequently see Larry over the travel show many years. And just a delightful man. And he asked me really to fill in for him when he was traveling. So I would host the travel show.
I didn't know that.
Oh, you didn't?
No,
Oh,
that
gosh,
is great.
Well, I can't believe they gave me that responsibility, really. I could have gone very rogue. But Larry had suggested, and Mark Feldmo, you really should be doing a tour to the UK. And I said, oh dear, no, no. But by 2017, they convinced me it was a very good idea. And I never looked back. It was the most marvelous experience. I said to Larry, well, where would you like me to go in the United Kingdom? And he said, well, where would you like to go? And I said, oh, well, goodness me, all of the beautiful sites, because there's so many to see, it's hard to pick. And Larry suggested, I want you to take everybody back to your beautiful little village where I was born and all my family still live. And we've had the same home there since 1840. Sadly, I did lose my father last August.
I'm so sorry.
Thank you, Wendy. It's everybody goes through it, don't they? But the family home is still there. I can't bear to sell it. So there you go. We're part of the village, part of the fabric. And even though I've worked here for many, many years, Audlem is really, where I grew up. And it's a picturesque, beautiful Cheshire village, the most southerly village in Cheshire. And it's right on the Welsh border. And it sort of gives you, and this is what Larry said, it gives you a different look at Britain because it's real Britain, as I say. It's where we live and how we function.
I was just going to say, I mean, what a unique experience to go back to this childhood village, to this place that you grew up. And like you said, it's so authentic. And that's one of the things about, I think, going on this tour with you, seeing it through the eyes of a local, if you will. As well as the local guides who give the other commentary with you on the tour. But it's just it's always been what we hear the praises the most about, is just how wonderful it is to experience it like a local.
Well, it is a small village, but it's a beautiful one. It's picturesque. We have a canal, the Shropshire Union Canal, that goes through there. It was the last one that Thomas Telford built, and there's 15 locks. And locks are used, or were then, to level out going from the Cheshire Plains to the Shropshire Plains, which enters Wales, by 100 feet. And so now it's just tourists that go through, because it's such a pretty little village built in the 12th century with this beautiful church made of sandstone that dominates the village and sits on a mound. And, my school friend, she is running one of the lovely little shops in the center of the village. The same family has run this business for 150 years. The sweet shop dates back, the sweet is where you buy all your candies in jars, dates back to 1560. It's where I used to buy my ice cream and all my sweets. And so it's just a treasure of a place, really. But we just slip in there for a couple of hours, and then we're going to have lunch on the outskirts in Burley Dam, which is in the middle of farm fields. There's lots of dairy cows there at the Cumbermere Arms, and the Cumbermere Arms also dates back into the 15th century, and they don't take tour groups at all. But back in 2017, when I knew I was going to take this tour group, this is where my family always loved to go for lunch. And it's like stepping back in time. There's all these different rooms. It's almost like being in somebody's home, beautiful wooden floors and antiques. And it's just a different world. It really is. We have lunch there.
Such a, again, it's the unique things that you've been able to put into the tour over the years. So we're just really excited to let you walk through this tour and kind of explain some of it to us. So I think we've got this tour this year, September 13th through the 22nd. And this is a tour, like I said, we do it one time every year with you. And so if you're booked for this year, great. If you're looking at booking this year, that's great. We have space still available. And if you're thinking that this might be something for 2024, it'll be something that we'll do again in 2024, because it's always such a great experience. So with that, let's just go ahead and see if we can, let's see, wonderful technology here. So this is just kind of a little bit of an overview of how long the tour is. And so it's the 10 days with 9 nights. The travel days are actually departing on the 13th.
The 13th, and we'll arrive the next day in London.
On the 14th.
Yes.
And then at the end of the tour, we end on, you were looking at that, and I didn't have that.
We fly back
date.
on September 23rd.
We fly
Edinburgh.
back on the 23rd from Edinburgh. Okay,
Yes,
right.
yes.
So we fly into London and home from Edinburgh.
So we have 3 nights in London. We're going to stay at the Bailey's Hotel, which is a lovely hotel in affluent Kensington. It's a beautiful part of London. It's bustling.
See if
and
we've
busy.
got this little map here.
It's a lovely
So,
Victorian hotel too. It's in a Victorian townhouse, but you're in the center of everything there. It's a minute's walk to the British Museum, to Hyde Park, all of the sites. And there's
it's a beautiful area. Oh my
fantastic.
gosh.
You couldn't go wrong. I've always wanted this area. And last year I saw the Bailey's Hotel 2 years ago, and I said, that's where I want to go.
That's the hotel.
Yes, and it was a big hit last year. They have a great breakfast there. I would say fill your boots, but you won't need anything for lunch. And because, London now is such a cosmopolitan city, breakfast is of all sort of nationalities. So it appeals. You can choose what you want, an English breakfast, a continental breakfast. It's really very interesting. And I thought they did an absolutely fabulous job. So
that's the other thing I think that's so neat about this, is just that over the years, you've been able to handpick some of these hotels, and they fit the mood and the personality of the tour, I think. So now we said we're going to 3 different countries, and here we have a map. So we've got about England, Wales, and Scotland.
Yes, except really they all belong to the United Kingdom, although the Scottish might not think so. I think they're fighting still for their independence, and Wales is a principality. But yes, we are going to be visiting. We start off in London. We see all the sites. It's so much fun. One of my favorite things is taking a cruise down the River Thames. You just see all these, it never gets old for me. You see all of these remarkable landmarks just passing you by as you're sitting
there. And you're
there.
like, oh, look, there's the eye.
There's St. Paul's. There's the Houses of Parliament. You really can't believe your eyes. But we also have a guided tour too, and you get to see all of these remarkable places like Westminster Abbey, where of course King Charles was just coronated.
The big coronation that just happened.
And of course Queen Elizabeth also, her funeral was held there. But we also will see Buckingham Palace briefly, the changing of the guards. We see all of the really important sites, to be honest with you. St. Paul's Cathedral, which is absolutely gigantic. It's where Diana was married, of course, to Charles. And I think it has the biggest church bell in the United Kingdom, if I'm correct. But anyway, you get to see all of these wonderful sites. You also have a half day to trot around as well whilst we're in London. And by the way, we're going to Windsor Castle too. And this is something I really wanted to do. That's on a separate day. I believe we go on Saturday to Windsor Castle. Correct me if, yes, I think that's correct.
Right. I was
And
gonna say, yeah, this is,
it's
well, this
wonderful.
kind of talks a little bit about our arrival day on this page. And like you said, we're going to that Bailey's Hotel.
Yeah, welcome dinner in the evening.
Yeah,
So we all get to know one another.
and that's important when you're traveling with a group.
Yes.
You know, it's really interesting. The different comments that we get about group travel. A lot of people will say, you know, I never really thought I'd be a person who would enjoy
Right.
group travel, but yet you're with these people who you really bond, you
By the
know.
end of the trip, it's remarkable to see friendships that are lasting. In fact, on my flight back last year from Edinburgh to Amsterdam, I remember there were two lovely sisters from Cache County, and they had made some really fantastic friends. And they said to me, please, could we have everybody's cell phone number? And I said, well, we'll have to ask permission first, but I don't think that would be a problem. But I just thought, how lovely is that, you know, these lasting friendships were formed. And you see that on every trip. There's always somebody that you
Personalities and all the different. Absolutely. Well, and everybody's there for the same purpose. And it's just lovely that to have everything taken care of for you. So like you're saying, all the different things we're going to see. You know, when I went to London my first time, I wasn't with a group or anything. I was trying to follow my phone and the different websites.
That's hard.
And you know what? I was doing more studying and staring at my phone on walking maps than I was really appreciating where I was. So I think that is probably definitely one of the greatest things. So this slide tells a little bit more about the Bailey's Hotel and what the different amenities that this one has. And then on let's see, our first official full day. This is the day that you were talking about when we do our private touring of London.
Oh, and the Tower of London's great as well, all the crown jewels. In fact, what was so remarkable when we were there in September of last year, we were looking at all the crowns, and little did we realize at that stage, you know, we were going to see them literally taken out of the Tower of London and used during the coronation.
Oh my gosh, that was that whole thing was just so amazing.
It was
so amazing.
We're very good at pomp and ceremony. It's one thing we do well.
You do, and we Americans seem to really love it. I think it's been so interesting to see how much we've been following along. So
that's Windsor Castle. What a beauty! Look at that. One of the oldest in the world. It's just pretty incredible, to say the least. And that's, of course, where the Queen is now laid to rest, and Prince Philip.
So what is the touring like when you're here at Windsor?
Well, last year, unfortunately, because last year was when we had Windsor Castle put on, you know, on the tour, because I have a very good family friend who lives in Windsor with a husband, and I've always thoroughly enjoyed going there in the little town of Windsor. It's just bustling. And of course, the castle just absolutely dominates the entire area. But last year, it was actually closed because of the Queen's funeral. And so we couldn't actually tour, but you can walk around all the grounds and the Royal Mile here. It's just remarkable. But this year, we shouldn't have no issues with that at all, because thankfully, you know, everything has sort of settled down again. But it is a remarkable place. This is where the Queen loved to go. Everybody thinks Buckingham Palace was her favorite spot. It isn't. She loved Windsor Castle, and she would spend all her time there. And certainly when the pandemic broke out, she lived there.
This was her quarantine. This was her quarantine.
Nice digs.
Right.
Really nice digs. She would call Buckingham Palace her office. That's where she did her work, her business. So, and also there's a lot of royals in the grounds. So Kate and William, their house is in the grounds over here.
Okay.
Frogmore Cottage, that's where Harry's being turfed out, as you know.
Yeah.
I don't think he's been paying his rent.
But it's there on the grounds.
All in the grounds.
Okay.
It's huge. It's absolutely magnificent. So we get to have that tour, which is just so lovely. Right on the outskirts of Windsor, actually on the wall itself, there's a lovely little pub there. It's called the Two Brewers, and it's the tiniest little pub, all full of flowers outside. But you can get great food there. But it used to be two brewers that used to compete against each other. And this is hundreds of years ago. And now it's owned, of course, by one publican that runs the facility, but it's a charming example of a proper English pub, which has no resemblance to, if you have in your mind a sports bar, forget it. Just this is different, completely different.
You will be introduced to the traditional.
Yes, and all the family is welcome. It's that kind of place where you can go to, have a lemonade or whatever you want, or a traditional pint of ale and good food. I mean, really good food in a beautiful environment.
That is so neat. And I love that there's some planned free time.
Yes.
Because there's, one thing about being with the group is it is structured, and we do include the important sites. Having free time to be able to, do you want to go to a museum? Do you want to go shopping? Do you want to go to a theater? Which I did all of those things, and I highly recommend them.
Yes.
They're so much fun. And you know what? I was really impressed, or I don't know if impressed or surprised is the right word, at how affordable the theaters were to go and see those shows, when we're so used to going to Broadway and having to spend so much money to see a ticket, to see a show there. But you can do it very affordably there in London.
Everybody has different tastes. So, when they ask me, what should I do? I mean, it really depends on what you love to do. I mean, you can go, everybody on the trip, there's a lot of them will go and see a production, a famous theatre production. But then there's others that will go to Stonehenge and book a separate tour and go south, or they'll stay in the heart of London. My goodness me, there's so much to see. And then there's all of those incredible museums on your doorstep. Or you could just go to Harrods or have afternoon tea. Afternoon tea is one of my favorite, by the way. That's a wonderful tradition.
We did that over at Kensington Palace for my sister's birthday.
Oh, how lovely.
And we felt pretty royal. The china there was just amazing.
A lovely, lovely way, mid-afternoon, late afternoon, to sit down and have lovely sandwiches with no crusts on, and salmon and cheese and chutney and egg and cress or whatever it is, and then lovely scones with clotted cream and jam. And by the way, Kensington Palace is an easy walk from the Baileys.
It absolutely is.
15 minutes, if I'm correct.
It really is. And and this is a beautiful time to be there. So going out and taking a walk in the park is fabulous.
Well, I love the tour at this time of year because, I mean, I love children, but they're all back in school, and that's a great thing. So all the tourist sites aren't absolutely riddled with families all on holiday, not just from Britain, but from all of Europe coming over to visit. So September is a fantastic time because all the kids have just gone back to school a couple of weeks earlier.
Well, that is the other thing is, you get a nice introduction to London before you start moving out to the country and getting to see the country. Right.
And we go to Blenheim Palace, I believe, on the Sunday after we've arrived. And this is just a pretty magnificent place. The grounds are exquisite. And it's so palatial. The Duke of Marlborough, the history goes back 300 years, first founded it. And now any admission fees go to keeping up this grand, magnificent home. And you can wander around it. There's some lovely couple of little cafes there. You can have afternoon tea as well. And I just, even at the end of the tour, I just like sitting down in one of these cafes and finding myself a nice bakery item and and just sitting there and just enjoying the beautiful views. But it is a magnificent place. And then we get back on the bus and head to the Cotswolds. Wendy, have you ever been to the Cotswolds?
I haven't. Oh. And this is like my ideal tour. This is the tour I want to take.
Cotswolds, they often, the nickname is Little Venice, and it's because in Bourton-on-the-Water, where we quickly go, we sort of have a stop over lunch. So you're really free to do whatever you want and grab a bite to eat. Or you can just go into a local supermarket like the Co-op and buy a really tasty sandwich. We're very good at sandwiches, by the way. If you want just something light, we make great sandwiches. That's one thing the Brits do very well. And it's good for, if you're on the fly, or a work person will just go into the supermarket to buy that for lunch, quickly. But the Cotswolds is gorgeous. The Windrush River runs right through Bourton-on-the-Water, and they're really low, thin bridges, which you walk over, which is absolutely remarkable. You'll have great photographs and limestone buildings with thatched roofs. I mean, it's so quaint.
Well, it looks like a movie set just looking at this picture.
It is, and that really is a good resemblance of exactly what it is. So then we pop back on the bus again. It's always a nice bus too, very comfortable. We always have the same driver. And we're heading to Chester then, which is really the area where I grew up. Chester was one of the main cities 18
Okay.
miles away from Audlin. And it's probably one of the best examples of a Roman walled city still in existence today. It is magnificent. The whole city is surrounded by this sandstone wall, and you can walk all around it. It's about 2 miles around the whole city of Chester, which sits on the border of Wales. So you can see Wales from up on the walls itself. And then inside these walls is the beautiful Tudor half black and white timber buildings. And it's a bustling city. It's a cathedral city. The cathedral's marvelous. And all the shops are on 2 different rows from medieval times. But there are all these modern shops in these historic buildings. I mean, you just can't believe it, really. And it's pedestrianized down the center. But it's a beautiful, beautiful city. It really is. If you love Roman history, my goodness me, is this the city to see? And it's pretty.
And so is that where the hotel is for that night, is
So
in Chester?
We're going to stay in the Indigo Hotel. I haven't stayed in this one, but I love the look of all of it. It looks fantastic. All of the mod cons, and it's just beautifully appointed. And we're 2 nights in Chester because the following day we're going to go into Wales, my old stomping ground. I went to the University of Bangor and Cardiff, and it's very close to Snowdonia. And can I say, as children, this was one of the most spectacular places my parents used to take us for Easter holidays, even summer holidays when we were really, really young. And the Snowdonia National Park is nothing short of breathtaking. You look at these.
Is that where this picture is?
And can you see the Snowdonia, the Snow Mountain Railway? It's just a little narrow gauge, and you plod along, up the mountain, and it's about
is
a
it
5-mile route.
cogwheel train, or is it
narrow gauge? I think they call it.
Okay.
I'm not a railway buff, but can I just say that I thoroughly enjoy this trip. It never gets old. Sheep could stop the train on the way up. It has many times. So we just sit and wait for the sheep to cross, because Wales is famous for its sheep. I think they have more sheep than people. Welsh, of course, is the language.
Picture.
It is. It's just and as you're going up there, you can see waterfalls, and then you just see all of these beautiful scenes. It's kind of rugged terrain. There used to be slate mining there. Clearly, they don't have that anymore. But then you get to the very top, and there's this rugged slate sort of cafe museum place where you can just grab a quick drink or a bite to eat before we head on down. But Wales is just filled with mythology and folklore, and the Welsh language is all impossible to say, can I just say. But I think the children all have to learn Welsh now in Welsh schools, and more than half of the population speaks Welsh as their first language.
That's, somebody asked me when we were talking about the tour, they said, well, is it a different currency in Wales? And it's like, no. It's the same currency. It's a principality, but it's still part of the UK.
It is. The government comes from the UK. Now, in Scotland, they do have their own currency. And by the way, spend your Scottish notes before you leave, because in Wales they won't accept them, even though it's only 200 miles away. The Welsh don't have their own separate currency. This is the Hotel
Indigo.
Very nice.
Okay.
All the rooms are really nicely appointed. You can see some of the black and white timber Tudor property in the background there. It's a remarkable city. It really is.
It's so interesting to see the combination of modern and traditional.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is
think of the Romans. They marched into Chester 2,000 years ago, and those walls are still standing. These are the views of the Snowdonia National Park. I think it was the 3rd national park established in the UK. And by the way, on a clear day, and let's just hope, because Snowdon is a bit rainy, you can see Ireland. So that's how close we are. This is my little village, and all the locks that you see the barges going through, and you, by the way, when you're there, you can just take a little walk yourself down in remarkable walks down along the canal. It's one of the lovely things to do in the village. So, and that's before we go to lunch. So if you don't want to shop or anything, you can just take in the views, and it's not hilly there. It's relatively flat. So, anybody can enjoy it. And also you can see the Audlin Mill house right down on the canal with the flag outside. That's a lovely shop too. And there's the Cumbermere Arms where we're going to have lunch after we leave the village, which is meant to be haunted, by the way, Wendy. The monks used to have tunnels that they built, you know, when there was all the religious persecution, 1560, whatever. And they go, and all these tunnels reportedly are under the road going to a local hall and monastery. And they say the Cumbermere Arms is haunted. I haven't seen a ghost in all the years I've been there.
You haven't had your interaction yet.
No, nobody's followed me.
I can imagine that having ghost stories, there's probably more than enough to go around.
Oh, we've got plenty of them.
Oh, gotta love it.
So then we head from Audlam. After we've had lunch at the Cumbermere, we go on our comfortable appointed bus there and head north, and you see some wonderful scenes driving north. Oh, I love this hotel. So this is the Kimpton Charlotte. Oh, it's fantastic. A great example of Georgian architecture. And it's really big. So it looks it doesn't look very imposing, the front door, but I love it. It's like 10 Downing Street, same thing, really. You know, you have a door like that and just the number on it. But then this amazing hotel just opens up, and it's huge, just huge. It just keeps going back, and it's in a great part of Edinburgh too. So it's near the Royal Mile, so you can pop out, go to Marks and Spencer's, you know, one of the famous supermarkets there, and pick up whatever you want. And you know, you don't have to eat out. You can take, you know, something from the supermarket back to your room. Sometimes I do. If I've, you know, had a long day, I'll think, oh, I'll just pop to M&S or Sainsbury's and pick something up and pop back to the hotel room.
I was just looking, and so on this one, so breakfast is included every morning on your tour. And then there's been a couple of different meals, like you've mentioned. There's a lunch and there's a welcome dinner. And so there's like on the website, it outlines the different meals. So you'll know every day, like today lunch and dinner is on your own, or we, you know, tomorrow lunch will be included, dinner will be on your own. And there's always going to be a convenient restaurant or something that, you know, a fun pub or someplace to go and experience.
The hotels also have dining rooms.
Perfect.
In fact, the Bailey's has a brilliant, in London, has a great restaurant. I thoroughly enjoy going there when my sister came down for dinner from Cheshire. And also the Kimpton, you can choose I think there's 2 or 3 restaurants in. You wouldn't believe it, would you?
No,
it's massive.
Picture. It's like, wait, going back.
The hotel is massive.
It just looks like a beautiful estate home.
It's a 5-star hotel.
And
it's gorgeous.
How much would you say you need to budget for dinner throughout the tour? I mean, I'm sure some places are more than the others.
Yes, it's very hard to say because, again, people have different expectations.
I always say if you're a foodie, you know where you're going anyway.
Right.
But if you just need a meal.
Yes. So, you know, we in Edinburgh, just like London and even Chester too, there's always so many different choices. So you can go from a supermarket to just, by the way, they do have the fast food restaurants, I hate to say, but well, I shouldn't hate to say because they're also very popular too. But there's also fast food restaurants, so don't think you're going to miss those. Pizza places too, or then you can go to all kinds of different restaurants with Mediterranean food, Italian food. I mean, there's everything on your doorstep. When I was at the Bailey's, I laughed. I just took a 10-minute walk, and I thought, I've just been to about 50 countries. You know, you can choose whatever you want to eat. So really, you can balance your budget if you want to be more meager. That's possible. Or you can be as lavish as you wish. But I would say, goodness me, I'm trying to think what I would spend, you know, $30, $40, $50 would be, you know, excessive really for me.
That's helpful to know, though, because the pound, though, also, you know, the exchange rate on the pound, it's probably the one that we get the least exchange for. The pound has the value of that is so significant to the dollar.
Yes, and last year it was definitely in Americans' favor. I haven't looked at the exchange rate today, but I don't think it's that much.
No, it's not too much different than the euro, but typically.
Oh, right.
Now, but they don't accept the euro.
No, the UK doesn't. We didn't want any part of that. And
Then none of it.
That's another
Yeah.
another conversation. So no, we use the British sterling pound, and that will be what you use your currency wherever you go. I mentioned about Scottish notes, but it's still, you know, the currency it's still the UK. It's not Scottish currency. It might be Scottish notes. It's just that Scottish notes with Scottish, you know, historical facts won't be accepted in Wales. But other than that, the UK currency is accepted from John O'Groats down to Dover, to Bangor, to Cardiff, and so north, east, west, you're fine. The only time you're going to have a problem is if you go to Southern Ireland, which is part of Europe, and they'll have the euro. So yes.
Good information.
That's
super good
information, not to confuse you, and you won't need a passport to cross any borders from into Wales or
Once
Scotland.
you get into the country, put it away, lock it up
Yeah.
in your safe
Yes.
until it's time to go
That's it.
home.
As soon as you land in London, that's it. You don't need your passport until you're leaving in Edinburgh. Look at this beautiful photograph here. This is Loch Lomond, the entrance to the
Nessie
Highlands
is
of
not
Scotland.
here.
No. Although I'm sure I saw Nessie.
Really?
I'm sure I did. The views, Wendy, on Sweeney's cruise here that have been doing it for years. It's just magnificent. You can sit outside and let the cobwebs be blown away, or you can go inside if you don't want any, you know, if you don't want to sit outside. There's plenty of seating, and you get to see all of these amazing things. Ben Lomond, by the way, mountain is there. You see all these craggy
I was going to say that is
castles.
just beautiful.
It really is. It's fresh water. I think it's about 23 miles long. And then we get this amazing commentary from a BBC presenter that's recorded, but it's a wonderful commentary talking about what you're seeing, some of the historical landmarks there, also wildlife and the fauna. I mean, it's just gorgeous. It's also a national park too. Really quite remarkable, to say the least.
Oh my goodness, that looks like a beautiful, beautiful day.
Wendy, I think they call it Scotland's Queen of Lochs. That's the Scottish Queen of Lochs, Loch Lomond. And then we have a lovely drive back into Edinburgh, by the way. It's about a 90-minute drive, and you go through the countryside again. Look at this magnificent castle, hey? And then we get to tour that the following day.
That's incredible. That is incredible. Wow. So you get to go in and tour this castle as well as the other areas there in Edinburgh.
Holyrood Palace, which is the royal seat. So any members of the royal family visiting Scotland will also stay at Holyrood, which is not very far. We have another bus. The bus takes us down into that area because this is right up on the craggy hillside. So it all drives down. It's only about a 15-minute drive. We also have a tour, I believe, we do, of Edinburgh. Last year, I managed to convince these two guys with bagpipes to come with us. And basically they serenaded us.
You managed to convince them to come jump on the bus with us.
Well, they were part of the tour at one point, but one of them said, I play the bagpipes. And I said, well, where are they? And he said, well, they're at home. And I said, well, how far's home? He said, oh, it's about 10 minutes away. And I said, well, hop on the bus with us. We'll stop at your house. So he popped back on the bus, and my goodness me, he had one of these blue badges where you can go on routes where normal buses can't go. So it turned out brilliantly well. And then we had this view. Oh gosh, it was probably about 10 miles from Edinburgh, looking at the castle, and he played the bagpipes for us as we all stood outside. And
wow. How are you going to do that this year?
Don't know.
I was going to say, you're going to have to text them and tell them that we need to pick them up again.
I did suggest that. And so I'm hoping they're ready to go, the two of them. But they were also tour guides, for local tour guides, and they were full of great stories.
You know what, though? I bet things like that happen to you every year on the tour, where you just run into some kind of fun, unique situation.
Right. Things just roll and you think, oh, that's magnificent. Well, it's just like when you start chatting with somebody.
Yeah.
Doors open, don't they, really, I say. So, but can I just say about Holyrood? 2 years ago, I was there walking in with the two elderly sisters from Cheshire County, who was so lovely. And we were just rumbling ourselves in. And then I noticed that all these posh black cars, and the Royal Standard flag was flying. I thought, hey, we've got royalty staying here. And so I said to the two ladies, I said, hang back here, something's going on. Something's happening. I don't know what, but something is about to happen. Well, and they said, well, what do you think? And I said, somebody's coming out and I don't know. Well, who? And I said, I don't know. And I said, next thing, Princess Anne walks out, the Queen's eldest daughter. You saw her in the coronation. She's the hardest working royal in the family. She does more appearances than any other member of the family. And there she came out with her lady in waiting. There was Secret Service equivalent over there, MI5 or Royal Detail. And of course, I'm saying it's Princess Anne, and they said Princess Anne. I said take photographs.
Yeah,
now.
this is
Click,
the time
click,
to get your camera.
Yeah, so we all took great photographs, and she waved at us and immediately got in the car, and she was whisked off. So you just don't know what's going to happen and unfold under your eyes.
Wow.
And she probably was, well, my goodness me, not that far. She just walked out of the building at Holyrood. We were inside and just starting the tour there. There's another great cafe there too with great bakery goods. Yeah, really great.
You know all the good places to go and get the treats.
Great hot chocolate too. But yes, you just don't know what you're going to see. That's the wonderful part, I think, of the United Kingdom is, there's history around every corner.
Well, there's so much to see and to learn. And I think one of the things when I go over to Europe, and I've only been to England once, and it definitely was not enough, is you relate so many things to movies or to different things that you've seen, whether it's been a period piece or a local piece or something. And it just is like, I've seen this, I'm familiar with it, and I'm actually here now experiencing it. It
is remarkable. I think for a lot of people who were on the tour with me last September, when they were watching, Queen Elizabeth's funeral, which is very sad, but also they'd only just walked in the same Westminster Abbey, and again, as the coronation. Yes, and I was just thinking, what remarkable memories they all have. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention, I might have done Blenheim Palace. Sir Winston Churchill was born there. So, so you see a lot of things.
Yes, it's everywhere.
Yes, it's quite interesting to see, and they have an exhibition that you can follow on that. This is where we had the serenade of the bagpipes, and you can see the castle on that ridge in the background. But this was not planned. This was not part of the tour, can I just say? And we just
your bagpipe serenade.
Yes, we just picked up his bagpipes, and here we were. But what a lovely man. And he also played at that stage one of the Queen's favorite hymns as well on the bagpipes.
Oh, that's beautiful.
It was lovely. It was very memorable. I know everybody got back on the bus going, gosh, that was a special moment right there.
Abby, let me ask you, on this tour, how much walking, people who have any kind of mobility issues, like what are the limitations, or what would you recommend people know about that?
That's a very good question. And I would like to just say that I've had all generations, and I love that coming on this trip. It's open to everybody. So the youngest I've had is like 21-year-old, and I thought, well, that's going to be a challenge.
Right?
It wasn't at all. They absolutely thoroughly enjoyed themselves. Last year I had a 25-year-old who went with his parents, and Nick, who was an absolute delight. By the way, that was their second time, the parents' second time on the tour. And then I've had the eldest has been well into their 80s. And so there are, you don't have to there's not excessive walking. We do have some of the tours like around London probably will be one of the longest ones, but you don't have to do all of it. You can always go back to the hotel if you're tired in the afternoon, but we have buses that do take us. And then, the river cruise, you're on a boat and it stops at the Tower of London. And you don't have to walk all around the Tower of London. There's lovely, chairs outside. You can just pop yourself down. And so there's plenty of places where you can sit and rest. And each year I've always had, just like my father, in their, elder stages, and they're slowing down. But that doesn't mean that this trip isn't for you.
That's good to know.
Edinburgh Castle, yes, that's a steep rise, but you can also grab a taxi that frequently will take people with less mobility up to the top there.
Oh, nice. So
And
there's options.
Yes, and then Loch Lomond, you know, the bus stops at the port and you pop onto the boat and you just sit and watch everything. And another reason I wanted the drive back through Edinburgh was that, you know, you can sit back and actually watch all of these lovely things, you know, from the bus window too. So, and in the Cotswolds, you can walk as far as you want up the street in Bourton-on-the-Water, or you can find yourself a lovely little tea cafe and sit down and have, you know, a scone and a
Oh.
drink. So I think there's challenges for the youngest to the oldest, and you will find what fits you. And if you're tired, you don't have to do it. You know, you can go back and have a sleep at the hotel, go and have back and have a nap. Although I
I
don't think
love
many people
that.
do that.
No, it's like, how do you make the most out of every single day?
Right.
But I
right.
think that you can customize it to
That's exactly it.
to what you're able to do and
Your
what you
ability.
enjoy. Exactly. Well, that's fantastic. I was going to say this tour this year is 35.55, and that includes all the touring, all the wonderful hotels, all the different exciting places that you're going to be going, all those unique experiences that you've built into these different tours. I think that's amazing. It's breakfast daily, as well as some of the extra meals and the admissions and you know, all the preparation that we do to
Right.
help get you ready to go.
Right.
This year we do have group airfare out of Salt Lake, which is the nonstop flight into London, which is
Great.
with the
Oh,
problems with European travel this summer and lost
yes.
luggage and
Yes. That
trip
makes
delays.
a world of difference.
Oh my gosh, just having that direct flight into London is amazing. And then coming home out of Edinburgh. So we've got group flights for $13.83. If you're looking at this for a future tour, it's kind of hard to predict.
Yes.
We try to keep the tour cost as similar as we can, of course, you know, as expenses you know, change based on inflation and service cost and things like that. So
Just like America.
exactly, but it's such an inclusive tour. I think that
Yes.
besides a few meals and things like that, that's really about the only, and of course the shopping.
Right.
Because that's always, you know,
Yes, we're not responsible for
we're
that.
not responsible. We're not responsible for those things.
Right.
And that's, somebody always asks, how much money do you think I should take?
Right.
And it's like, you know,
How many gifts do you want to buy?
yes, you know, how compulsive are you about buying all the different little things, which is I have got quite the little knickknack. But I think, again, this is just a bucket list tour for so many. And I'm thrilled that you are taking these people and getting to show them your home and your country and the wonderful, you know, insightfulness that you can bring to this tour. So Abby, thank you for sharing some time with us today.
Thank you, Wendy. And thanks to everybody who joined today. Really appreciate it. By the way, we do have a farewell dinner too, I believe, in the hotel where we're staying as well in Edinburgh before we leave. So you can say goodbye and exchange phone numbers with people you'd like to stay in touch with.
That's fantastic. Well, everybody who's been on with us today, thank you so much. If you are still contemplating booking this tour, we've got the information here on how you can email Megan, who is the tour manager, and our website where you can find all the details of this tour. We want to thank you guys for sharing a little bit of time with us today, and we hope that you have a wonderful, wonderful day. And what's a traditional farewell message? That is it goodbye, or is there any
Cheerio?
I knew there had to be something cute. Cheerio. I like that. So